Good day, everyone. This is Karen Jean Lyon. Today, we will be talking about the story of Juno and her rivals. But first, let's find out who is the author of this story. Publius Ovidius Naso, known in English as Ovid, was a Roman poet who lived during the reign of Augustus. Roman especially known for his ars amaturia and metamorphosis. His verse had immersed influence both by its imaginative interpretations of classical myth and as an example of supreme technical accomplishment. Juno and her rivals. This is the story about Juno, the queen of gods. She shared many human attributes, including a strong dose of jealousy. Jupiter, king of the gods, often flirted and fell in love with beautiful women. This made his wife, Queen Juno, quite cross. She hated these rivals who took her husband's attention away from her. This story demonstrates her proclivity for vengeance, especially against Io and Callisto, the unfortunate mistresses of Jupiter. This story demonstrates her proclivity for vengeance, especially against Io and Callisto, the unfortunate mistresses of Jupiter. These are the characters of the story. Juno. Juno is Jupiter's wife, the Roman goddess of marriage and the queen of the gods. Juno in Roman religion, chief goddess and female counterpart of Jupiter, closely resembling the Greek Hera. Jupiter, god of the sky, Juno's husband, the chief ancient Roman and Italian god who was identical with Greek god Zeus. Io, Jupiter's mistress, a princess turned into a heifer. Io is a girl's name of Greek origin. In Greek mythology, Io was an Argive princess and the daughter of Inachus, king of Argos. The alluring Io caught the eye of Jupiter, much to the displeasure of his wife Juno, who transformed the young princess into a cow. Argus, the guardian of 10-eyed monster, loyal servant of Juno. His buying name derives from the 100 eyes in his head or all over his body, as he is often depicted on Athenian red figure pottery from the late 6th century BC. Mercury, messenger of God, son of Jupiter, the one who killed Argus. Mercury in Roman religion, god of shopkeepers and merchants, travelers and transporters of goods, and thieves and tricksters. He is commonly identified with Greek Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger of the gods. Callisto, a nymph, another mistress of Jupiter, transformed into a bear, then into a constellation. Callisto in Greek mythology was one of the goddess Artemis' huntress companions and swore to remain unwed. The story. One afternoon, Jupiter was on Earth with Io, the beautiful young daughter of Inachus, a river god. Juno angrily rushed down to Earth. Jupiter, sensing her approach, changed Io into a snow-white cow. Juno pretended to be fooled. She praised the pretty cow and begged Jupiter to give her the animal as a gift. Fearing her bad temper, Jupiter reluctantly agreed. Juno sent for her servant Argus. Argus had 100 eyes in his head, and never went to sleep with more than 2 at a time, so that he kept watch of Io constantly. He suffered her to feed through the day, and at night tied her up with a vile rope round her neck. Keep constant guard over my little cow, she instructed him. Argus was the perfect watchman. He had 100 eyes and never closed more than half of them when he slept. Io felt quite upset and lonely, abandoned by Jupiter. She spent her days eating grass, always close watched by Argus. One day, while she was grazing near a river, she saw her father. She tried to call out and tell him what had happened, but she could only moo and moo. Jupiter felt sorry for the suffering he had brought upon sweet Io, but he didn't dare help her himself. He called for his son, Mercury, and asked him to go to Earth and find a way to set Io free. Mercury was a very cunning god. He dressed himself as a shepherd and walked up to Argus. "Let me play a tune for you on my shepherd's pipe," he said. Argus was glad for the company and listened happily to the soft music. After some time, Mercury began to tell him a very long and monotonous tale that went on and on and on. Argus became so bored that finally all of his eyes closed, and he fell asleep. Quickly, Mercury drew his sword and killed Argus. Juno was irate when she saw that Argus was dead. To honor her loyal servant, she placed his 100 bright eyes on the tail of her favorite bird, the peacock. To this day, the shiny but unseeing eyes of Argus can see on this bird's fancy tail feathers. As for Io, she was now free, but remained a snow-white cow. Still angry, Juno sent a stinging gadfly to chase her. Io ran from land to land trying to escape the buzzing, biting insect. At last, Juno's heart softened. "Promise me that you will never look at Io again," she said to Jupiter. He happily agreed. With that, he changed Io into a beautiful young girl. So after Io, Jupiter again had another mistress. Callisto also was caught with Jupiter by Juno. This time, she decided to make her a bear. One day, her son was hunting and found her, and the second before he was about to kill her, Juno stopped him and took them both. She questioned Thetis and Oceanus on what to do. She came to a decision. Instead of turning her back like what she did to Io, she made them into stars known as the Great and the Little Bear. And that is the story about Juno and her rivals. So what is the marriage ethic in the story? So female status in marriage in Ovid's Metamorphoses, the stories of Juno's defense from marriage and her revenge on her rivals and love kept coming up. We can conclude from this fact that women were inferior to men in marriage relationship at that time. On the other hand, Juno had both the will and power to exert severe revenge on her rivals in love, either changing them into animals or causing death on them by scheme. As for Jupiter, his attitude towards Juno's revenge on his mistresses was no other than indulgence. In Io's case, he gave the cow transformed from Io to Juno at her request. Seeing too much of the torture for Io by Argus, Jupiter secretly sent his son Mercury to kill Argus. When Io was hunted by one of the Furies, Jupiter could not do but plead with Juno for pity for Io. From this aspect, we can infer that Juno was a wife, had considerable power in her marriage to counterbalance the power of Jupiter. Juno's jealousy was not the result of her narrow mind, but the result of defense for her legal marriage. The deep reason for Juno's revenge is that she wanted to protect the sanctity and chastity of her marriage. What lied behind the revenge of Juno was the revolt and challenge of the authority of the husband. So, the attitude towards the marriage in these stories is that Juno was a goddess of marriage and was seen as the guardian of marriage. A firm defense of marriage served as a vitable attitude towards marriage. For Juno, Jupiter's betrayal of marriage was always of moment. She always targeted her rivals, not her husband, as object of revenge because she took Jupiter's love and Jupiter as her private property, which couldn't be shared and violated by anyone. Males highly valued marriage too. Although Jupiter kept beauty hunting and had children with his mistresses, he never vacillated. He never facilitated the status of Juno as his wife. His love for his mistress was always transient. This was partly because of the status of Juno among the gods and goddesses. Most importantly, males needed a legal wife to manage his family and have a legal descendants to inherit his properties. At that time, lots of people separated marriage from love. Love was not necessarily the basis for marriage. Jupiter couldn't dominate his marriage completely at his will. Marriage should be the balance of benefits and relationship, while the love was based on sex and impulse. This was the reason why marriage should be relatively stable and love was passionate but temporary. And we can also have the theme of the story like secrets and lies kill relationships. No matter how careful you are, you will cut, just like Jupiter did. So, loyalty is an important aspect of a healthy relationship. And cheating isn't a solution. Cheating isn't an escape. It only leads to further detriment in the relationship. Breaking someone's trust is like crumpling up a perfect piece of paper. You can smooth it over, but it's never going to be the same again. So there's a chance, it's important that you make efforts to fix things with your partner. And also, if you commit adultery in real life scenario, being unfaithful is a sin and it is punishable in the eyes of God and in the law. Here in the Philippines, unfaithfulness is punishable under the Republic Act number RA 9262 in our country, and you will be punished as what we call the Anti-Violence Against Women and Children law, or the VAUSI law. And also, repeated marital infidelity is considered as psychological violence, which is punishable with a stiffer imprisonment of 6 years and 1 day to 12 years. So, in the story, the lesson that we can learn in this story is that if you commit a sin, especially when it is against your marriage, or having a sin of that we call adultery in the sense of the husband, so you have the responsibility to face the punishment. And for the case of Juno as a wife, she must take an action by filing a case against her husband, or and not the put the judgment in her hand. So in real life, we can reflect in this situation as it is very rampant to have an affair in the case of the husband or even in the wife. So that is the lesson of this story, that we need to have a healthy relationship with our husband, or our wife as a couple. So I hope that you have learned something from our topic for today, and thank you for listening.